Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Every man takes the limits of his own field of vision for the limits of the world. Psychological observations. Mostly it is loss which teaches us about the worth of things. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. The old woman dies, the burden is lifted. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience. Compassion for animals is intimately connected with goodness of character, and it may be confidently asserted that he who is cruel to living creatures cannot be a good man. Moreover, this compassion manifestly flows from the same source whence arise the virtues of justice and loving kindness towards men. The composer reveals the innermost nature of the world and expresses the profoundest wisdom in a language that his reasoning faculty does not understand. Reason is feminine in nature. It can only give after it has received. Of itself, it has nothing but the empty forms of its operation. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. I have not yet spoken my last word about women. I believe that if a woman succeeds in withdrawing from the mass, or rather raising herself from above the mass, she grows ceaselessly and more than a man. To be shocked at how deeply rejection hurts is to ignore what acceptance involves. We must never allow our suffering to be compounded by suggestions that there is something odd in suffering so deeply. There would be something amiss if we didn't. Ordinary people merely think how they shall spend their time. A man of talent tries to use it. To be alone is the fate of all great minds, a fate deplored at times, but still always chosen as the less grievous of two evils. The more unintelligent a man is, the less mysterious existence seems to him. Men need some kind of external activity because they are inactive within. According to me, the influence of Sanskrit literature on our time will not be lesser than what was in the 16th century Greece's influence on Renaissance. One day, India's wisdom will flow again on Europe and will totally transform our knowledge and thought. Compassion is the basis of morality. The assumption that animals are without rights and the illusion that our treatment of them has no moral significance is a positively outrageous example of Western crudity and barbarity. Universal compassion is the only guarantee of morality. Happiness consists in frequent repetition of pleasure. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but it is impossible to find it anywhere else. They tell us that suicide is the greatest piece of cowardice, that suicide is wrong when it is quite obvious that there is nothing in this world to which every man has a more unassailable title than to his own life and person. Each day is a little life. Every waking and rising a little birth, every fresh morning a little youth, every going to rest and sleep a little death. The animal lacks both anxiety and hope, because its consciousness is restricted to what is clearly evident and thus to the present moment. The animal is the present incarnate. The bad thing about all religions is that, instead of being able to confess their allegorical nature, they have to conceal it. It takes place, by and large, with the same sort of necessity as a tree brings forth fruit and demands of the world no more than a soil on which the individual can flourish. It is a clumsy experiment to make, for it involves the destruction of the very consciousness which puts the question and awaits the answer. The allegory was finally completed by Augustine, who penetrated deepest into its meaning, and so was able to conceive it as a systematic whole and supply its defects. They belong not to one system, one nation only, but to the universe. And just because they are so very far away, it is usually many years before their light is visible to the inhabitants of this earth. True brevity of expression consists in a man only saying what is worth saying, while avoiding all diffuse explanations of things which everyone can think out for himself. Hatred is a thing of the heart, contempt a thing of the head. In early youth, as we contemplate our coming life, we are like children in a theater before the curtain is raised, sitting there in high spirits and eagerly waiting for the play to begin. On the sufferings of the world. The poet presents the imagination with images from life and human characters and situations, sets them all in motion and leaves it to the beholder to let these images take his thoughts as far as his mental powers will permit. Correct and accurate conclusions may be arrived at if we carefully observe the relation of the spheres of concepts. Truth that is naked is the most beautiful, and the simpler its expression, the deeper is the impression it makes. Genuine contempt, on the other hand, is the unsullied conviction of the worthlessness of another. A reproach can only hurt if it hits the mark. Whoever knows that he does not deserve a reproach can treat it with contempt. But truth acquired by thinking of our own is like a natural limb. It alone really belongs to us. It is the courage to make a clean breast of it in the face of every question that makes the philosopher. Writers may be classified as meteors, planets, and fixed stars. Talent works for money and fame. The motive which moves genius to productivity is, on the other hand, less easy to determine. When the Church says that, in the dogmas of religion, reason is totally incompetent and blind, and its use to be reprehended, this really attests the fact that these dogmas are allegorical in their nature and are not to be judged by the standard which reason, taking all things sensu proprio, can alone apply. Now, the absurdities of a dogma are just the mark and sign of what is allegorical and mythical in it. Do not shorten the morning by getting up late, or waste it in unworthy occupations or in talk. Look upon it as the quintessence of life, as to a certain extent sacred. One should use common words to say uncommon things. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. A sense of humor is the only divine quality of man. Life is a constant process of dying. Religion is the masterpiece of the art of animal training, for it trains people as to how they shall think. Treat a work of art like a prince. Let it speak to you first. So the problem is not so much to see what nobody has yet seen, as to think what nobody has yet thought concerning that which everybody sees. Great men are like eagles and build their nest on some lofty solitude. Philosophy is a science, and as such has no articles of faith. Accordingly, in it nothing can be assumed as existing except what is either positively given empirically or demonstrated through indubitable conclusions. Hope is the confusion of the desire for a thing with its probability. No rose without a thorn, but many a thorn without a rose. We can regard our life as a uselessly disturbing episode in the blissful repose of nothingness. In our monogamous part of the world, to marry means to halve one's rights and double one's duties. Every parting gives a foretaste of death, every coming together again a foretaste of the resurrection.